are this afternoon's top stories. Fresh start type program may be coming for PEP employees. Gas prices in St. Lucia expected to drop lower than before. And 20 killed at a beachfront restaurant in Somalia. Good afternoon and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Friday, 22nd January 2016. I am JD Keynes. We begin with news on the local scene. In an effort to continue restructuring the People's Employment Program, or PEP, the government, through Finance Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, has announced that it may be facilitating a similar initiative to that of the Fresh Start program. This initiative, he said, will give preference to people enrolled in PEP.
The government is considering a subvention to the bank to support additional resources to meet a portion of the unsatisfied demands for low-cost financing by small businesses under the Fresh Start program. We can't rely on the commercial banks, for they have not provided it, and they will not provide it, but the government will make up some of the slack. And we want a special tranche targeted directly at weaning persons off the PEP and into high-income earning employment.
Dr. Harris's announcement came on Tuesday during his press conference after giving an update on the Fresh Start program that was a collaborative effort of the federal government, the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis, and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
We were lucky to have the Venezuelan government again advance another $1 million to take the total up to $6 million, so that $16 million were available. Just over 200 applicants have been approved and have been paid. The $16 million, therefore, are no more.
Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. Prime Minister Harris is standing by his administration's approach to dealing with the Sugar Industry Diversification Foundation, SIDF. He said the new entity will operate in a restructured and more accountable framework, and announced that while a revised governance law is still being prepared, a board of councillors has been appointed.
While we are waiting on the law, we have determined that in the interim, we will put a board of councillors in place. Recall last time I had reported that Dr. Robertine Shadderton was acting as the secretary. We have revised that through the National Trust. The board has now been put forward by the National Trust, which is the founder, comprises Dr. Robertine Shadderton in a new role of chairperson, Maclo Taylor as councillor, Leon Lescott as councillor. A secretary is to be appointed. Again, according to the laws governing the SIDF, that person will have to be a service provider.
He said there were many problems with how the operation was run under the former administration, and his team is seeking to correct that. The Ministry of Health, particularly the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Patrick Martin, continues to issue updates on the Zika virus. The latest came on Friday morning, noting that the health authorities in the Federation are closely monitoring the Zika virus situation, adding that this is in conjunction with all states and territories in the Caribbean and North, Central and South America, plus regional health agencies, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, or CARPHA, and the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO. ZIZ News understands that there are no suspected or lab-confirmed cases of Zika in the Federation at this time. Symptoms of Zika include fever, red eye, aches and pains, and swelling of the legs, which resolve in less than 1 week. Up to 80% of persons who have Zika do not show symptoms. There is no medication, cure, or vaccine. Home treatment includes paracetamol, vegetables, fruits, fluids, and rest, the release states, adding that there are reports suggesting a link between Zika infection during pregnancy and an increased number of stillbirths and infants with birth defects, notably microcephaly and small brain. These reports are being investigated to identify a cause. We'll take a break and be right back.
ZIZ TV will be starting a brand new program lineup in February, and we want you to help us start off each day with a national prayer. If you have ideas for a national prayer, you can submit them to requests@zizonline.com. Submissions should be no more than 60 seconds long.
Regionally, with world oil prices dropping fast, gas prices in some parts of the U.S. have dropped below $1, and the St. Lucian government is receiving criticism for considering dropping gas prices in the country as well. More in this report.
The former president of the St. Lucia Petroleum Dealers Association says that if the price of crude remains as low as it is currently, petroleum prices could become significantly low. In fact, gas prices could be as low as $6 a gallon. Over the weekend, gas prices at some stations in the United States dropped to as low as 47 cents per gallon. Since gas prices in St. Lucia mirror international trends, this could mean consumers paying dramatically low prices for gas within the next 3 to 4 months, contends Everesta Jamari.
I would believe that if prices stay within the range of about $40 a barrel, then based on our current pricing structure, in other words, what we charge for what is the dealer's margin, wholesaler's margin, and the government taxes, then you could see prices coming down as low as $6 a gallon, which we will have to go a long, long way back to recall prices as low as that. So there's good news.
However, the president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants for the Eastern Caribbean contends that while consumers would be happy to enjoy significantly low prices at the pumps, government must be careful how it manages the prices. In fact, Frank Myers advises against passing all the savings to customers.
If the price of oil falls to $10 a barrel, and we can get the retail price on the market, say, down to $7 per gallon. Government shouldn't really let it go that far. They should keep it at a certain level, 8, 9, and the difference, if you will, put this in a reserve fund.
Myers says that what may seem beneficial now may not necessarily be in the best interest of the country in the future.
On Thursday, Antigua and Barbuda's Prime Minister Gaston Brown announced that effective April, personal income tax will be abolished in its entirety. The Prime Minister, who made the announcement in his presentation of the 2016 budget, said this was a promise made to the people of Antigua and Barbuda during the election campaign. He said with the elimination of the income tax, EC $30 million will be back in the pockets of the people. Internationally, Somali police officials have been safeguarding the popular beachside restaurant in Mogadishu after a deadly attack by Islamist terrorists was carried out on Wednesday. The Somali authorities said the leader of the attack had been arrested.
Somalia's security forces ended a deadly siege of a beachfront restaurant with more than 20 people killed in the attack. Captain Mohammed Hussein, speaking from the scene of the attack in Mogadishu, said the security forces took control of the restaurant just before dawn. Blasts and bursts of gunfire could be heard as Somali special forces went from room to room pursuing the al-Shabaab gunmen who were holed up inside the restaurant. Captain Hussein said the security forces rescued many people who had been trapped inside the restaurant's hall, where a party was taking place when the attack started. Despite being pushed out of Somalia's major cities and towns, al-Shabaab continues to launch deadly guerrilla attacks across the Somali peninsula.
Federal prosecutors in California have charged a former Alaska Airlines pilot with flying a plane from Oregon to California while under the influence. More in this report.
David Arnston, a former Alaska Airlines pilot, was arrested Wednesday on suspicion of flying a commercial plane while under the influence of alcohol. According to a law enforcement affidavit, Arnston captained a flight from San Diego to Portland, then another from Portland to Orange County, California, on June 20th, 2014. When the plane landed in Orange County, a drug tester was waiting along with the plane.
More than 100 prisoners in Myanmar can expect to experience freedom once more after being held since last March for insulting Buddhism while in Myanmar. Sentences for nearly 80 prisoners on death row have also been converted to life in prison.
Out of jail and back with their families. Smiles from some of the 100 or so inmates being liberated, according to Myanmar, just days before a new parliament dominated by democracy champion Aung San Suu Kyi's party sits for the first time. One of the dozens of political prisoners said to be on the release list wants freedom for others still behind bars. I'm not totally happy, he says. I want all the activists, political prisoners, students, farmers and workers still left behind in prison. A New Zealander jailed for insulting Buddhism was among those being released. Visiting on Monday, the US Assistant Secretary of State had urged the former Burma to free all of its political prisoners. And with that still not the case, protests continue, though hope now is growing. I strongly believe that things will be all right because our country is now under our mother, says this political prisoner, referring to Aung San Suu Kyi. This will be different. After decades of military rule followed by a semi-civilian government, many believe things will be different from February the 1st. The National League for Democracy, led by Myanmar's most famous former prisoner of conscience, will then make its presence felt in the new parliament in another landmark moment after its historic election win in November.
Taking a look at the weather, temperatures today will peak at 26 degrees Celsius or 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds are easterly at 8 miles per hour. Seas are moderate to locally rough with swells of 1.5 to 2.1 meters or 5 to 7 feet. An advisory is in effect for small craft operators and sea bathers, especially on the northern and eastern sides of the islands. In the weather summary, we are told that today will be fair to partly cloudy with a chance of isolated showers, and tonight will be partly cloudy. Sunset for today will be at 6:01 and sunrise for tomorrow will be at 6:44 a.m. And that brings us to the end of ZIZ's Midday Newscast. Join us this evening when we'll have the details to these stories and more in our major news presentation. I'm JD Keynes. Have a great afternoon.